Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, little children, dogs and cats, welcome back to another rousing rendition of what we like to call the BREADren podcast. Uh, Brother Wells is not with us today, but we still gonna deem this a BREADren episode because we got most of the gang. 3 out of 4 is
Hey,
not bad. How we doing today? Dr. John Levin, CFP, PhD, and Miss Alicia Brandon of HBCU Pets Go Get You Some. How y'all doing?
mhm. Man, doing all right. It's good. It's so nice to hear y'all and see you and everything else. It's
It's
beautiful.
always a pleasure.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
It's always a pleasure. I ain't going to take too much of y'all's time, but I definitely want to let everybody know that this episode and many more episodes will be sponsored by our new beverage
Woo-hoo.
spirit
All right.
provider, Castell Vodka. That's Kastell,
Ooh.
castellvodka.com. Uh, check all of your local establishments and ask for it by name. Beautiful red frosted bottle, smooth to the taste and the touch. Castell Vodka. Um, but now that we got that out the way, I want to talk to y'all and kind of roll previous conversations into this one. And I want to talk about maintaining motivation.
Mhm.
Uh, Doc, me and you hopped on about a week or two ago, and we talked about the importance of uh, being retrospective and reminding yourself of from whence forth you have come and your
Mhm.
accomplishments and celebrating yourself and things of that nature. And so now I want to kind of keep that theme going, but really kind of focus on maintaining motivation because oftentimes, like we said, you get into your routines and you kind of get stuck in it and you forget that you've actually made some progress. But also you get into this routine and how do we maintain the sensation of being motivated to even continue? Because oftentimes, just seeing how far you've come might not be enough to motivate you to keep going. You might just, look and be like, well, I've come this far and that's about as good as it's going to get. But I wanted to tap in with y'all and talk about maintaining motivation. But I'm gonna throw it to you first, Alicia. When that phrase comes about, what immediately comes to mind about maintaining motivation?
Mm. The struggle. That is the word that immediately came to my mind. It is a struggle, okay? Especially in times where, like right now, I'm unemployed, now working at a 9 to 5. And so I've kind of turned my efforts to finding a job and then also trying to maintain my small business as well. Some days, most days, let's be honest, it's a struggle to find and stay motivated. But sometimes it's the little things that keep me motivated. For example, a couple of days ago, I went by my small business bank ATM to deposit some money. My birthday was recently and people were blessing my Cash App and my Zelle, and I appreciate that. So I
Mm.
took some of that money and it was going to put it in my business, right? And I probably should do a better job. Don't get me, Dr. Lovin. I should probably do a better job of managing my ledger, especially for my business account. But I assumed that I didn't have much in there. That's why I was going to bless myself with some of the blessings that somebody else gave me. But when I printed out the receipt, I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
it wasn't
that
10.
seed that turned into a plant.
Listen,
Mm.
it wasn't tens of thousands of dollars yet, but it was more in there than I thought. I started to go back and take it back out, but
That's that discipline. And I
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
apologize. I sincerely apologize that this is the first time this has ever happened. I did not do true British fashion and raise a toast to a wonderful conversation being had and gems being dropped. So cheers to that. I do apologize.
Cheers.
Mm, mm,
Cheers.
mm.
Cheers. He had to if you're gonna introduce the
yeah.
Castile. Tastes
I
so smooth, don't you
l-
agree?
literally sat up there and introduced it and ain't even po none up.
Oh yeah, well
So so
that's how it is. You
I apologize
just
for that.
rude. Don't even let the folks know how it cascades down the throat.
Oh
But Doc,
Lord.
I'm gonna pass it to you. Doc, what comes to mind immediately for you?
Man, you know what's funny is I I look at motivation on YouTube, motivational channels. Tony Robbins. I read and listen to "If" by Rudyard Kipling. It's a poem, and it's a very famous and very long poem that talks to you about like the difficulties of life. But it's one of those things where you recognize that if you can overcome the difficulties that come around, then you can achieve and you can continue to push. And it just shows that, hey, we all go through things and you're going to go through them. And I think that's when motivation can be difficult and it wanes. And people talk about the importance of discipline and, hey, just get out there and just do it. And once you just do it and get in the pattern of doing it, it's gonna be fine. But motivation is a part of that. Discipline is important in that you are going to regularly and continually do what it is that you're doing, whether you feel motivated or not. But the quality of what you are doing is impacted by how motivated you are. That's going to determine to some degree the energy that you approach it with. And it's going to, and here's an important one, be determinative of some of the passion that you approach it with. That passion and energy, those two things can be contagious. And so it's one thing to just like do the stuff you have to do and be engaged every day when you're supposed to be and all the rest of that type of stuff. But you can go through the motions if you aren't careful. And it's like people will say, oh, well, why does this recipe taste so good? Why, Big Mama, why your pound cake tastes like this? And other people will take the exact same recipe and they pound cake don't seem to taste like that. But it's not just the ingredients written on the page. She says that I make it's love, baby. I make it with love. Now what that love means is, okay, well, yeah, let's say about, a half a teaspoon of vanilla, but I know it needs about a teaspoon and a half of vanilla. The love changes the recipe a little bit. And the love also makes you tell them kids to get up out the house so they're not bouncing around while the cake is rising and all the rest of the other little small things that make it so that you're getting that sweet, velvety bite that nobody else can produce. And that's what passion and that's what motivation and all of those things can bring you, that people sit there and wonder, why is the product or the quality of the work that you're doing so above what other people can do? It's that love. It's that motivation. It's the fact that you want it and you enjoy it and it means something to you. And that can fluctuate at times. And you need to have things that can bring you back to that. So I'm glad you brought up the topic because I feel like it's an important one to not just be engaged, not just be going through the motion, but to really recognize the impact associated with what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. And that can help create and stoke that fire in you to keep you motivated to do it at a high level.
You know what I love? I love the fact that we kind of pick out these topics, and I say we, but y'all know I just be pulling topics out and don't tell y'all nothing about it. But we always kind of hone in on like a specific theme or a topic and how important these things are. Like motivation is important, but we don't neglect the fact that you still need discipline. We talk about how important it is to have retrospect and to celebrate yourself, but how important it is to continue doing what you're doing and still progress. And it's like we lay out that there's a toolkit of things and traits and attributes that you need to be successful. But at any given time, you're not going to always use all of them. Like sometimes, like you said, you're just going to be disciplined to get up and do the work versus being motivated to necessarily do it. Like right now, y'all can't see, but Alicia is grinding right now on the job. She is creating and pouring into HBCU Pets right now while we're recording. And it's not necessarily, she might not be motivated to do it. She's just disciplined enough to be like, hey, I gotta do this right now. Like I gotta multitask right now, because I know me, I'm one of the people that like, I can multitask, but it's part of my probably my undiagnosed ADD or ADHD, whichever one. But in reality, it's like, hey, sometimes I gotta do two things at once. And it's not that I'm motivated because I need to. It's just I got to. I don't have a choice. Like if I need this
Gotcha.
done, if I'm trying to hit this deadline, then I'm gonna have to record and create at the same time. I'm gonna have to wash the dishes and cook at the same time. I'm gonna have to listen to this conference call and type my report at the same time. But like I like that we don't put too much emphasis on something, but we highlight these tools in the toolkit. But everybody, I think people will get a good understanding and know, like, hey, you're gonna have to use several of these tools at the same time. Sometime, you're gonna have to pull out the wrench and the drill,
yes,
the
sir,
hammer and the nail.
Right.
But
yeah.
speaking of that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you look at a football team, like, and y'all remember the pep rally?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the pep rally? Everybody in the whole gym, they got the band in there. And if you went to a school that was, primarily like very black, you had an HBCU style band at pep rally, right? So the cheerleaders cheering, the band is doing what they're doing, and all week the team has been preparing for another team. They've been looking at the schemes that the other team runs, the plays that they run, thinking about the plays that they want to run based on the defenses they'll see, all of that, right? All of that very cerebral work. And then you have this culmination. It happens with the pep rally where everybody's coming out and you see all these people, all the football players run out and they get in the circle and they just whooping it. Woo, 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 woo. Everybody's hollering. And this is about like getting them to feel that feeling of excitement, that passion, igniting that. So as they get ready to go into the final stages before they actually go into the game, they feel united with one another. They feel energized about what they're going to do, and they recognize they got the entire school and community behind them. It's about taking what it is that you've done, that preparation, all of the work that you've done, being motivated. That is an indication of belief in yourself and belief in what it is that you're doing and that person standing across from you. And that is instilling, I think, in the most important part, the people, right? People are more important than things. At the end of the day, what you're doing is instilling in yourself and then your teammates and in your community that we believe we can do this because we've done the things to be able to do it. So being motivated is an indication of your faith in many ways in the works that you have done to prepare for the blessings that you are about to walk into. That right there is huge. And I don't want folks to miss that. That optimism, that motivation to actually get it done is the spark that leads to the fire that you're going to create to warm the hearts and minds of others. It's a huge thing because without the motivation, it doesn't get done. Well, not at the same level.
15 to 20 years from now, Dr. Levin Church will be open. But until then, you can find these small snippets of wisdom and sermons here on the BREADren podcast. Just a slice, cocktail convos, and the Dr. Levin show that's soon coming. We're working on that in the background. I just wanted to throw that out there because I can't hold it no more, Doc.
Yes, sir.
I won't drop the teaser videos and the clips and none of that. But I will just go ahead and throw it out there. But in my perusing, I found an article on the Harvard Business Review that talks about how to keep working when you're just not feeling it. 4 strategies for motivating yourself is an article from 2018 by Ayelet Fishback. I want to give credit where credit is due. But the four strategies that they line out is designing goals, not chores, finding effective rewards, sustaining progress, and harnessing the influence of others. And I just want to start by saying that sounds like episodes 2 or 3 times over in the BREADren. I know for a fact we've laid that out. But I'm gonna give it to Alicia real quick, just because. Yeah, come on off of mute. But I want to talk about the first one real quick. The designing goals, not chores, I think is so important that I don't really know if I fully understand it. because when you're not motivated, what you got to do will feel like a chore and not a
Yes,
goal.
absolutely.
And so I love that that's the first one is, and the key word for me really saying it over and over in my mind is to design your goals, not just choose or pick. It says design a goal, which means to really put thought and effort into what this is, so that I'm assuming it does not feel like a chore when you're doing it. But I definitely want to get your opinion on it, because like you said, like right now you are creating, and there is something about HBCU pets, and this is from an outside perspective looking in, there's something about it that brings you joy. There's something about it that there is a passion behind it. And oftentimes the passion is what keeps us doing that thing. So from that perspective, talk about designing your goals and not making them chores.
Ooh, I think that's definitely key to make them feel like, well, make them not feel like chores. Because then, I mean, who likes to do chores? Nobody. You know what I mean? I think that comes from being a kid when you're assigned to do these chores or whatever. And it don't go away as adults, as we know, because we got to, clean the house and do things that we got to do. But it's oftentimes those things that we dread, like, oh, here we go again, with the same old, same old. For example, with HBCU pets, I've experienced a little bit of a lull, and it's mainly because I'm a one main shop, and I've experienced a little bit of a lull, right? As I explained, a lot of my motivation and attention has been to replace my 9-to-5. So I've kind of let off the gas a little bit. So then, because I let off the gas, kind of let go of my passion a little bit, it started to become a little bit of a chore. Like, oh, here we go. I got to create this social media account. You know what I mean? I got, June is here. There's Pride and Juneteenth, which is a really big month retail wise. Like, I need to find some motivation, right? To make this be exciting again. And I think the thing that did it for me, where it didn't feel like a chore, was when I was invited to do this vendor show that I'm literally, like you called out, sitting here creating and cutting out vinyl to press later on. That gave me, I was able to set a goal around it. Like, okay, all right, well, it's a 4-hour show. They're expecting like 200 people. I should come out of there with X. Right. So then it kind of pumped me up like, oh, it's some money at the end of this, not just money, the tangible thing, but the intangibles for me is like the exposure, the awareness, that brand awareness that I'm creating, introducing my brand to people who've never heard of it, things like that. So I got excited again about it. So it's no longer a chore. I'm doing the things to work towards my goal at the end.
I know for a fact, ain't nobody else out here doing what you're doing. And I'm talking specifically about an apparel line for pets for people that support HBCUs. It ain't. Now, you might be able to run off in a bookstore, find you a Chihuahua-sized shirt for your school. Possibly.
Right. Maybe. Probably not. Maybe a collar.
Collar might be about it. Everybody get the little dog. That's about it. Collar, best bet. 2 items. We talk about so I'm just putting that out there. But Doc, you was about to say something. Go ahead. You lost your thought.
No, I was gonna say, Alicia brought up chores growing up. And I still remember, like, my chores were not, and now maybe all our chores were a little different. See, for me, Saturday morning, we get up early, and you had to grab that pledge and get to dusting all that wood. We had a lot of wood in the 80s. There was a lot of wood in the house. So that lemon pledge and Windex, because
that was before we started buying all this composite wood stuff. Everybody had real wood furniture.
You had to get that pledge and some
old house smelled like lemon. Right. Between that and pine saw, oh man, you was in the forest.
But my mom would put on the radio, and I still remember, Diana Ross, I'm coming out. Like all of that, right? We have music playing and all the rest of that. So chores didn't just feel like chores. And we both knew, like, once we get done vacuuming, we get done sweeping, we get done mopping, we get done dusting, doing all of that, Mama was gonna make banana pancakes.
Yeah.
So what we got
rewards. See,
there you go. You
Yeah.
see, so we had an environment where chores didn't feel like chores. So even something as simple as that, you can inspire yourself and your family to do things that dusting is not fun, vacuuming is not fun, none of that's fun. But you put on a little music and you got some banana pancakes at the end, and just like that, you got kids motivated and recognizing, no, we need to go ahead, get these rags, do this, because Mama's getting ready to make banana pancakes. And what you need to find in your life is your own banana pancakes for what it is that you're doing, because otherwise, why are you doing it? You see,
right.
that's where you end up in a chore space, when you just doing stuff just to do it and you feel like you got it. And I said I was going to do, and I made this promise. No, you need to recognize that there's joy that comes and the accomplishment that you are getting ready to achieve based on these mundane, not so fun things that you're doing. But it's not about the thing you're doing on an individual basis. It's about how all of these things are going to lead up to a clean house. And cleanliness is next to godliness.
Godliness. All right.
In a godly feeling house, guess what? It got banana pancakes in it. There you go. You see?
The streets are paved with gold and everybody has banana pancakes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Doc. I feel you on everything you said. My household was the same. That Motown's greatest hits was finna come out. That Whitney Houston CD was finna be put on. Anita Baker was finna be put on. The Stylistics, all that with Commodore, all this finna be put on. But yet and still, I did not want to do any of them chores. But the reward was always doing.
Yeah.
Hey, once it and to this day, and I think that comes from a part of that, as a child, you don't really appreciate those things, but now I love all of that music. Like, I prefer that music over anything that's coming out right now. So it's like those things were indoctrinated into me to where now as an adult, I still don't really like cleaning, but I understand the value of cleaning. I understand that clutter in the home, it contributes to clutter in the mind. So if I'm feeling, foggy, I clean. And one of the best examples for me now currently is my garden. Like every spring, having to go outside and look at my garden area, and it's overtaken by weeds and grass from the dormancy. And knowing that I got to go out there and till that ground up and pull the weeds and clear it out and get it prepped to plant new seeds. And then you plant those new seeds. And then for a couple of weeks, you don't see no progress. You see no progress. And then all of a sudden, after like 3 or 4 weeks, after all of this tedious work and handling that you've done,
Rem Woodson.
You start seeing them little bits of green pop out the ground, and then little by little, you see these little. I promise you,
your labor.
I promise you, gardening has truly helped me to embrace and understand the saying "faith the size of a mustard seed," because I've grown greens and lettuce, and they all have very, very tiny seeds. But to see what comes from something that's about the size of a grain of salt, like a mustard seed is literally smaller than a peppercorn that black pepper comes from. And to see a head of lettuce come from something that small, a bundle of greens come from something that small, my God, today.
Yes.
So that for me is one of those things that has truly helped me put in perspective. I'll say, that's one of those, like, it's a chore sometimes, but I know the effective reward for me is, hey, I'm finna see the beauty of nature really happen in my backyard. I'm finna see the fruits of my labor come to fruition. I'm finna see vegetables and fruits being produced in my backyard from a couple of, a little bit of time and a little bit of effort on my part. And I think as humans, we're so engulfed in wanting to see tangible results.
Right.
And I think oftentimes we are unable to, like you said, Alicia, pick out the intangibles. Like the exposure don't seem tangible until it turns into a dollar, a meeting, something. Until it turns into something that you can touch and feel, it's hard for us to really grasp it. And I know there's a whole lot of conversation on social media where folks reach out to folks and having events and vendors and pop-ups and all of that, and they be like, well, just do it for the exposure. And everybody like, yeah, da, 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 da. Sometimes we might want to just really, vet that all the way through instead of immediately saying no when somebody steps to us with the exposure pitch. Because sometimes, and especially in certain times, especially in times where your motivation ain't being maintained, you might want to just say, maybe this is, like Doc say, this might be the blessing that I ain't really recognizing coming my way, and I'm turning it down because of the plate that is being presented on. Here's the exposure plate, but you like, no, I want the money plate to come to me, and it's like, this might be what you need. So, Doc, I appreciate you for going ahead and throwing that next one in there, finding effective rewards, because the banana pancakes is it. That's it. Yeah. You knew, it's like the ice cream with kids. It's like, if you do this, I give you ice cream popsicles. It was always a motivating factor, and throughout childhood for a lot of people. But finding those effective rewards. But how do we do that for ourselves? How do we find those effective rewards for ourselves? Because growing up and in context, it always comes from an external source. Pizza Hut was giving you the free pizzas with the Read It program.
Right. I remember that.
Your mama, your daddy, your uncles, your aunts, and everybody's, we're going to give you ice cream. End of the year, your teacher be good and do your work. Pizza party for everybody. It was always external. But how do we do that for ourselves?
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the reason that it's important to be acquainted with what it is you're doing and why, what your big picture is, what your why is, because that type of motivation is something that you can always turn back to when it gets boring, when it feels monotonous, when it feels hard, because it will at some point if your goal is big enough. Then you need that big, this is the reward that I'm working towards. When you're picking weeds and outside, you're not thinking about necessarily how boring it is in order to pick the weeds. That might come through your head, but the reason that you're picking the weeds is because you want the harvest.
I have a
right? You thinking about the fact that once I get all of this out of the way, I can put this tiny seed in the ground and properly nurture it, and we're gonna have greens. Mm-hmm. That is where it is that you need to be. You need to be thinking about what it is that you are actually doing and not just getting caught in they say getting lost in the forest for the trees. Mm-hmm. You're doing what it is you're supposed to be doing, but you've lost the end goal of what it is that you're doing. And so my mother saying cleanliness is next to godliness. Well, what do you want to be? You want a godly house, And the godly house, as you said, it's got banana pancakes in it. But that right there that right there was the visceral weekend to weekend reward. But your lifetime reward is having a home that you can bring people in and be proud of. Having a place where you can have your mind free to think. Having a place where when you get ready to put some socks or drawers on, they're where they're supposed to be. So that you can get to where you need to get to do what you need to accomplish. And so even the things that feel extremely small are extremely important in a lot of cases. Some of the smallest things we do are some of the most important. And we neglect how important they are into our lives until you see what happens when you don't do them. And here's the one thing that, you were talking about motivation and how it is often external. And I think about Black folk in general. And you go all the way back to slavery, at least Black folk in this country, right? And you think about all the things they had to do. They had to pick crops. They had to do all that same weed. And they had to tend the homes that weren't theirs and all the rest of that. And the whole time, In every movie and in every depiction that you see in writing, what were they doing? They were singing.
Mm-hmm.
They were singing. And it's like, well, what joy do they have to possess to be singing, to keep it on beat and all the rest of this? Sure, it serves those purposes. But that singing lifts your spirit. And I believe in my heart and hearts, they were singing and they were hopeful and they were optimistic and they were planting seeds that today we are harvesting. Right?
Gee whiz.
They were singing for us.
That's
and so now it's our job to be able to at least sing with the level of glee that they did and be able to plant seeds for that next generation that's going to be able to do even more than we had.
Takes Doc about 30 minutes. Takes Doc about 30 minutes to do this, y'all. I just want you to know. It takes him about a solid 30 minutes to just break it all the way down, and then I don't know what else to say after that. I don't know what else. Doc is about 30 minutes. 30 minutes, and that's sermon. That's sermon right there. That's one of them churches that get out on time right there. I'm just let y'all know what to look for in the future. 15 to 20, Doc's church, they get out on time. On the Sunday where he get carried away, 45 minutes. But on typical Sunday, 30 minutes. If the music and the organ get to playing 45, and we still out of there at a reasonable time.
I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go.
One more point. I'm gonna let you go. I promise.
I love it.
But Doc, as usual, you bring up a lot of it, especially with the finding the effective rewards. But I think what I want to steer it to on that topic is we talk a lot about remembering and reminding yourself of what that end harvest is, that ultimate thing. Like, okay, I'm in college, or I'm getting my doctorate, I'm getting my MBA, I'm getting this advanced diploma, whatever. So I'm doing the work for the classes right now because my end goal is to get that, to get that degree, that certification, or whatnot. But I think in terms of when we're designing these goals to meet this even bigger goal or this bigger achievement, we got to remember to reward and celebrate those small things. Like, hey, like, and an example that comes to mind immediately for me is, baby girl is about to have a pre-K graduation. I don't necessarily remember that growing up, but I know we had something. But, and a lot of times, especially that I have a child now, I look at a lot of things and I'm like, man, this is a money grab. And I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, really looking at it, it's important to celebrate this seemingly small but large achievement in life to maintain the motivation to keep going. Like, I have the conversation with her now, where I'm like, hey, school is not going to get any more fun than it is right now. And I guarantee you that, unless you just one of those people that loves school, from here on out, it's about to get increasingly more boring as you progress. And I'm being honest with, I'm like, there's not going to be much more time in your life where you're going to go outside and run around and play and color all day. And that's the benchmark, Now it's finna start being math, more reading and all of this, so, I think for that, and that to bring it back to the point of when you're designing your goals, make sure when you're designing these goals so that they're not chores, you put in the reward and the celebration for achieving that goal, which ultimately is part of this grand scheme of things, like, for instance, Alicia is in the mix right now. When she's done, the reward, pour myself a glass of wine. I see you, Doc. But for me, one of my goals, a lot of times, a simple goal is, whenever you do something or you achieve or accomplish something that you should be doing, it's, hey, I'm gonna grab a beer. Pour me a glass, and I'm gonna sit down and listen to some music. Like, it can be something so simple. Something that brings you peace, relaxation, and joy should consistently be a reward for doing things in your life that often become mundane. Does that make sense?
No,
Absolutely.
it makes a lot of sense, brother. Because there's a lot of people who are gonna have the wine without the things accomplished, and then you're not. You know what? You're not gonna enjoy it because
Mm,
now you're drinking and you sitting up there thinking about what you didn't get done, and that depressive drinking is the
mm.
kind that ends up being a major problem, right? Because then you get in this cycle where you're not getting stuff done and you celebrating your failure
Mm.
by giving yourself the reward that could have been the reward for a job well done. And cause now you're drinking because you're depressed to start drinking all the time, and then you see it's about the way in which you do the activity, even
But
right?
it's so
Because if you
crazy
can,
because it like you point out it's literal minor tweaks. It's just a
yeah,
little flip of a switch that just changes something from being one thing to being something else, something that is positive to being something detrimental. Possibly,
mm-hmm,
there is literally a very fine line between opposites.
yep, yeah. Well, when it's a reward, you have a glass of wine. When you're drowning your sorrows, you drink 4 bottles
Mm,
and you drink all
Not
day.
for.
mm.
You see what I
Doc said,
mean?
Doc, look, I thought Doc was gonna say four
And I
glasses.
done,
He said four
Four
bottles.
bottles, okay?
I done been in, I done been in both places.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the deal. You have to structure your thinking and structure your life in a way that leads to productivity for you. And if you recognize that, sure, a drink can be a reward, but a drink can't be a way of life, then you're on to something. That reward can't be the way of life. The way is the mundane things that lead to the larger accomplishments that you can celebrate with a sip. But if the sip is the way you live, then you ain't gonna get anything, and you're gonna eventually get to the point where you can't even afford the sip.
Mm.
That
Oh,
is where that's what it's about. It's about structuring your life in a way that works.
I'll tell you what's going to happen after
So
this, ladies and gentlemen. I'll help us all out. I'm going to convince Doc to go back and also get another degree in therapy, and then Doc is going to be the first licensed financial therapist in America. I know it don't. It can't exist.
I was gonna say, okay, no, there's an entire financial therapy association. I've got a friend
oh
who's the most
wow.
recent president of it. His name is Dr. Preston Cherry, one of my best friends
Oh,
on
okay.
earth.
I know. I know him from the
Yeah,
Instagram. He the financial
yeah,
therapist or something.
yeah. And so
Wow.
there's an
No,
entire financial therapy association, and it's a designation that I'm very much considering getting. So there's that prophetic nature of AJ Woodson coming on again. But
And there you
okay.
go.
to your point about Avery, right? I have no doubt in my mind that in about what is it, 17, not even that many years, man. We're gonna be sitting there,
12.
and I'll be at Tuskegee University. Because even though, yes, I'm sure she could pick somewhere else, but ain't nowhere else she's going to be but Tuskegee University. I can promise you that.
It is what
And
it
we will
is.
be hearing her name called as she walks across that stage. But there's a long time and a lot of accomplishment and a lot of celebration that is going to happen between now and then. Right. And that's the thing, is that you got to recognize that all of those celebrations are meaningful for not just her, but they're going to be meaningful for the family. Gives the grandparents an opportunity to get a new set of pictures and stun on their friends. That's what grandparents do.
Yes, yes.
And the grandparent Olympics is all about being able to talk about how great their kid is, and all your kid ain't doing nothing. That's all right, but mine, here she go. That's my grandbaby. That like it's and so it's not just, it's about the whole village being able to celebrate all of these things. And so yeah, I mean, if all she was going to do was complete pre-K, then yeah, you feel real bad about having this celebration, and that's just it. But the fact is this is the first of many to come, and I think as you stress that to her and help her recognize that, like, each graduation, yes, they're going to be progressively harder, but each celebration is going to be progressively more rewarding.
Oh
That
man,
type
Doc.
of thing. Yeah,
Doc, how
that's
you
how
do
it
this? Doc, how
goes.
you do this, man? Doc, how do you do this? How you do this, Doc?
You know,
Makes no
I
damn
don't know.
sense.
Yeah,
Got
I
that
open my
gift.
mouth and it
But
comes out.
listen, look, let me tell you something.
That's a gift.
But it's true. I just say what I see.
And because of your prophetic talking and speaking right now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he is for hire when it comes to speaking, especially on the topic of financial planning and in Black families. So have all of your professional organizations reach out to Dr. Ajamu Loving on Instagram. I'll skip over the third point of sustaining progress because they can go back and listen to the other 2 episodes we did about progress. But the last one is really what is happening, has happened, and will continue to happen is harnessing the influence of others. And we talked about that, and I want to say our very first episode of that power circle. And I love and I'm amazed and astonished at the fact that we take something that seems random and we always are able to tie it in like a chain link fence to where it literally links up to where we have our power circles individually and collectively to where we are literally harnessing the influence of others. And sometimes it's harnessing the influence in terms of exposure. And then sometimes it's harnessing the influence for what you're doing right now, which is speaking life and prophesying over people where it's like, you're able to, because, especially when sometimes you don't feel like doing. And that's what we're talking about is maintaining that motivation. And we talked about how, especially as in childhood, a lot of the motivation came from an external source. Mm-hmm. And to keep that same feeling, we got to be able to harness the influence of others. You got to have the right people on your team to be like, hey, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important because there are folks, especially when you have been more successful than your friend group, that will tell you, oh, you good. Right? That statement, you good. You got a PhD, you first Black. You ain't got to do nothing else. If the Lord never do nothing else for you, then he doesn't get enough. And you know what? In many ways, that's true. But I also don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. He put these goals in me. He put this ability in me. He put these people around me. And that's the thing. You have to choose who you listen to. So when I'm having a tough time, I know there's an AJ Woodson who's not just going to be like, oh, no, I know you can do this, Doc. He's going to be like, let me show you. This is how you can do it. And I looked at this, and these folks are funding for this. And these people might be looking for somebody to speak at this. It's not just them talking to you and saying, I believe in you. Sometimes that execution that is necessary is going to come not just from you. So you need those folks around you who actually believe in you, who not just going to say, oh, you good and don't worry about it. They're going to look at what it is that you have to accomplish. They're going to look at the promise that's within you, and they're going to look at who you are in general and say, hey, what it is that you're saying that you want to do and you've been taking steps toward, though it may be hard, here's something that can help you keep walking on that journey you need to walk on. And sometimes that man or woman will walk a little bit with you. And when you can find some folks that walk with you, y'all can lean on one another. And sometimes it's not as hard. So you find somebody going in the same direction with you. Now you got that power of somebody working with you, believing in you, believing with you, and it feels even more real. I think it's important to have that. The more you can make it real, the more that you can when it's not just you, you recognize it's not a delusion. This isn't just in your head. When I can call an AJ or a Destrian or Alicia and they say, oh yeah, do that, do this, and add this, now you have an even richer opportunity. Right. And that's the thing that you get when you bring the right type of others on in with you. Is that type of energy that can be brought to.
I love the fourth strategy. And I think it's truly just because our very first episode was about a power circle. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think I'm using the right word. Don't know if I am. Don't really care if I am. But if I'm not, correct me. For you people that are far more educated than me, it's serendipitous that was our first episode, which is really the foundation of having people around you and everything built off of that. Alicia alluded to it earlier. She's able to harness the influence of others, and I'm not talking about the money part. Her birthday just passed. People were hitting the Cash App, tagging her. It's not about the money. It was literally by them doing that motivated you to go to the bank to then realize, oh, I'm doing a little bit better than I thought I was. And now that motivation kicked in like, oh, okay.
Right. Gotta get some more bread. Okay?
Like Kendrick said, we gonna be all right.
Right.
And that I think that is a beautiful example of it, because somebody might look at that and be like, oh, harness the influence, let me crowd fund. And it was, but that in that instance is, for me, it wasn't even about the money. The real reward from that was you had to go to the bank, like, let me put some more money in this account. I got a blessing. Let me go bless the business. And then you find out, oh, the business is blessed.
Right.
And I'm stacking on top of it. So I want, especially not to put you on the spot, but we put ourselves out there often. And that's what I love about us. I love that this entire group is vulnerable enough to be honest and be real. Especially like right now. And I'm talking about for all of us, because the world is in shambles. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The world is in shambles. But when I talk to y'all and the other people that are in my power circle, it really and truly lets me know that if the world was to fall apart, if I got all y'all in the fallout shelter with me, we gonna be good. We gonna have laughs, we gonna have love, and we gonna live. Yeah, we good. We good. But I want you to just talk about the last one, harnessing the influence of others, Alicia.
I mean, like I said, the influence of a friend of mine who invited me to do the vendor show is really that kind of, I guess, struck that fire under my butt to like get it back together. Yeah, so that was really key for me. And then the influence of others as I'm like job searching. It's that word we always use, that network, using that, and being okay and being vulnerable, enough to say, I need help, who can I lean on? Whose influence can assist me, in my goals?
I think that is super important. When you have those, it's funny because you look at us right now at BREADren in general. We are largely successful folks, but there are 3 of the 4 of us who are in a rebuilding season right now.
Yeah.
And AJ, and in some ways, is helping us rebuild, so he's engaged in it too. And for some people listening, they might not even know it, because our energy when we get together is a whole other animal, right? The difficulties that you feel, the obstacles you run into, they can feel super huge to you when you're just by yourself. That being that loneliness by itself is an obstacle. But the word says where 2 or more are gathered together. See, now you got, when you have some other folks who are similarly inclined in the way that they're doing things, now it's not just you. Now you're operating almost as a team, even though, y'all don't necessarily wear the same jersey or anything like that, but you're not by yourself. And it doesn't feel like the things you are doing are pointless and a chore, because there's somebody else that's out there that's saying, we believe you. If y'all could have seen Alicia smile when she talked about how she checked her balance and it was higher than she thought. That right there just shows you the power of having these other people around you, because you wouldn't have done it otherwise.
That's
and so
true.
Whatever it was you're going through, the oh, okay, well, this job is not quite the right fit. They want me, I don't want them. This one, I like the look of it, but they didn't want me. And I thought I really wanted this one and all the rest of that. And then you almost forget that you have an entirely different blessing that you're called to fulfill. And you're looking at that thinking, oh, I neglected it. But also, just because you're not doing as much of it as you were before doesn't mean the seed ain't still growing.
Right,
You
right.
laid the groundwork, and sometimes the way it works with a seed is, oh, there's a weed in there that I didn't pick out yet. It ain't been as sunny as I want it to be, and I haven't seen the sprouts yet, and all the rest of that. But then when you go in there and check and take a look around, you see that the conditions are right for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Absolutely.
you mess around and start looking and you say, oh, I didn't even look back here in the back behind the weed. Now I see, oh, I
Okay.
got plants sprouting up and growing back behind this weed that I didn't even know was here.
Look at
Because
you
if I'd
speaking
have
my
picked the
language.
weed, I'd have seen the plant.
You're
I
speaking
didn't
my
even see the
language.
plant because I saw the weed.
You
Right,
speaking my
But
language.
you looked because the people around you motivated you and inspired you to get up and say, okay, let me get engaged here. And when you got engaged, you see that you were further along than you even thought you. Because it's not just you. It's not
right.
just every sweat of the brow that's happening. Some of it is about you laying that seed and planting it in the right place. Yeah, some of it's gonna be your work, but a lot of it is gonna be blessing that you can't even explain. By the time you get done with it, you're gonna be like, well, this, I ain't know it was gonna be this, which is what happens with
Right.
every big thing. I knew it could be big. I didn't know it was gonna be this.
This
But
big.
that's what it's
Right.
about, is allowing all of the different types of blessings that can come your way, the different resources that could be available to you, and opening your mind to the possibility that you are as capable of accomplishing your goal as is necessary. Sometimes you just need a reminder.
Okay. Let's pass the collection plate.
I know. Never mind. I ain't gonna say that. Yeah, I'll tell you later.
All right.
I know where we can. I know where you can get ordained, Doc. Don't worry about it. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. I think that does it right there. This just this ain't really just a slice. It's a whole BREADren episode, but I think it's enough meat on this sandwich here that you can get full off of it. And I appreciate both of y'all for doing what y'all always do, which is being vulnerable and honest in these conversations, because I often tell y'all that I be doing this for me. And I tell y'all that this is a podcast, but it's really just me tapping in with my power circle to, get me through times. And this is definitely one of those times where it's like, you know what? We gonna be all right. Kendrick said it. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Hey, but I just need, the topic was maintaining motivation, and I appreciate both of y'all for doing an amazing job of helping put things in perspective. And thanks to the article on Harvard Business Review, I'll try to remember to put a link to the article in the show description. But the 4 strategies of doing it: designing your goals, not chores; finding effective rewards, sustaining progress, and harnessing the influence of others is underrated and unmatched, in my opinion, especially in this time of social media. Sometimes you got it, congratulations, the loves and the likes are going to be enough on social media, but I can pretty much guarantee you most of the time it's really going to take you to really tap in and have them people call you. And when the times get tough, and who's still standing there with you with more than just a congrats and a like and a thumbs up and a heart. Who them people that's like, hey, do you need some help? Who are those people that's like, hey, I got you? Who are them people that's, hey, you hungry? That's really it. And that's a real foundation. And over 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 again, no matter how many different words and phrases and adjectives we use to describe the tools that you need to attain and sustain success, one of those common denominators really comes down to who you got around you. Like Bernie Mac said, who you with. That's really it. It's really it. And I think I see it. I see threads across the social media diaspora of people finding out at different times in life that some people ain't really with them. And I'm just blessed and grateful and appreciative that I found people that are with me at a seemingly young age. I still got some people from back in the gap. I got some people from the middle of the gap. I got some people that just hopped on board. But everybody's on the train knowing that we going in a certain direction and we with it. So I appreciate y'all for doing it. HBCUPets.com, go get you some. They got to look for all the occasions. You just heard Juneteenth and Pride and Juneteenth right now. July 4th coming up. You know you want that baby, your fur babies. In a flag, you know it. You already know you want that baby in some red, white, and blue. You know you want your chia poo and your labradoodle in a red, white, and blue tutu. You know it,
right?
So go ahead and get you some. Exactly. HBCU.
He's free too. We all celebrating freedom around here.
We out here. Get you some. Shout out to Castell Vodka, Kastell, Castell Vodka. Oh, by the way, I did not mention, and if you stayed thus far, you will know that it is kosher and gluten-free. Hot dang. And didn't say it before.
Mazel tov.
Didn't say it before, but it's a Black-owned brand. Hot dang it. We are making moves and harnessing the influence of others as others are harnessing our influence as well. And it's just a thing going on. And you can be a part of it too by just being positive and sticking with us. Dr. Ajamu Loving, CFP, PhD, that's certified financial planner, and doctor of philosophy when it comes to planning your finance. He does it all. Soon to be financial therapist, soon to be ordained pastor, soon to be not one that's going to get in your pockets from the tithes and offerings, because we don't need that. We all about integrity over here. Shout out to the long lost one, Mr. Destrian Wells. The boys are out of school, so he probably over there on full-time dad mode until they head to summer camp. So we're definitely going to shout out our brethren, Mr. Destrian Wells of D Wells Consulting. But y'all follow us on all our social media at BREADren Pod. That's BREADren spelt like bread, BREAD, like bread, because we always talking about bread. We always getting bread. BREADren Pod, BREADren Podcast Series on Facebook. Website might be coming soon. It might be one of those goals that we need to design for ourselves. We'll see. You never know. But just stick with us, like the bread on the butter and the banana pancakes. But that's gonna do it for us here at the BREADren Podcast. We love y'all, and there's absolutely nothing that you could do about it. Peace.
Peace.